Hey guys, and welcome back to an episode of Casting Conflicts. Of course, we are back with the opening recap and quite a bit to talk about before we get into today's matchup. Of course, the obvious thing we'll get out of the way first. Of course, Jay versus Bolas in the last episode where Jay was victorious. He pushes out with his first set win. Unfortunately, it doesn't really impact the board too much just because he's fallen behind in so many games that people like Asteroid and Jump can stay ahead of him. So really no major change there. However, there are changes to be had nonetheless. Unfortunately, Beastly decided to resign from this season of Casting Conflicts and is no longer participating, so he has given everyone sort of a boost on the way out that was below him. So, of course, now Jay, Bolas, and Helios all sort of bumped up a spot, although we're not really changing too much. As well as Dolphin acquiring suspension in the last month or so that unfortunately gave him a set loss here without playing a game. We do take these things very seriously, and if players do acquire suspensions throughout the season, they will be awarded set losses if they are set to play, which is a good example here. However, his opponent Vesaven did not really want to just be awarded the set win, hence the nature of this matchup here. So you are going to be seeing Vesaven take on Minelord today as sort of a stand-in for Dolphin. Now, of course, Minelord not really a part of the Casting Conflict season, but still making a debut on the series nonetheless here, and deciding to bring a little bit of Viking Druid action against Vesa's Knights. Now, typically, I would be very much in favor of a Viking Druid making an appearance here. It's a very underrated deck faction color choice and does very well against sort of the modern meta. However, Vesa is not really a part of the modern meta here, as his Knights sort of bring a different aspect to what Minelord might be used to in the ladder. He has done very well ranking through opponents inside of the CNC ladder. However, Vesaven going to prove a much more different opponent to what Minelord is used to. There are some good things, though, I like in his deck. Of course, the Mystic Rat combination, the Drake dances, a lot of Mystic synergy here, especially Leanna. Leanna's a funny sort of Mystic target to have in the deck. And now Reanimate can do some big things. But I feel like Vesaven might have a slight edge in this matchup just because of that burn aspect he's got. He's packing the triple Flamestorm and the triple Dragon's Fire main deck, so of course very easily able to deal with the swarm elements that I think Minelord is packing in the deck here, as well as that Luminaris copy. That could be very funny for Vase if he manages to pull it off. Excuse me. So yeah, with that being said, folks, we do move into game number 1 here. Let's see what Minelord can do in his debut against Vesaven coming up right now. Alright, folks, and welcome back to the battlefield. Of course, we've got Minelord making his CC Casting Conflicts debut up against Vesa, rocking the blue-white combination that, honestly, surprised hasn't seen more play in general. It's a very strong combination of cards, things like Mystic Rats on top of the Companions, the Reanimate Beastmasters. It's a very valuable strategy, so we'll see if we see any of that today. In the meantime here, we're going to see a opening Lumberjack from Vesa. Always nice to see that bad boy hit the board here. Going to receive a 1 point of damage. That seems fine, although Vesa is going to follow up quite heavily with the Knight of Flowers with the coin here, so really pushing his early advantage game here. And we'll see if maybe Minelord goes with the Spiny for block, and he does. Kind of fine there. Unfortunately, the Spiny will probably die off here and force Minelord to go into a Dragon Knight play here to remove this, if I assume correctly. And then, yeah, Vesa could even just follow up with the second Knight of Flowers. So, some pretty heavy beatdown already. We'll see if Minelord goes for the trade here. He does go for it. He could have potentially held off here for a Reanimate, which I think is probably the better play. I think he's just getting nervous about these big knights coming in and doing damage, so he's going to try and slow it down as much as possible here. Following up, though, we are going to see Dwarf Miner, so yeah, really just pushing a lot of cheap, big units down Minelord's throat here, and that's a good strategy considering that Mine does not have a lot of strong cards to help him out here. Probably plays black. I mean, yeah, I was going to say blacksmith, but hey, getting the temple out too is nice. You're also defending that top spawn square from being additional fuel for more castle damage. Yeah, and he's not happy about it. His bricking situation here, as Vase are going to go for the global buff power-ups here. A little 4-4 here, a little 4-4 there, and that is probably going to end the game unless we see something like, yeah, Drake Dance isn't going to be the card here. Pretty much no units coming out to help Minelord in this matchup. No matter how he looks at it, he can't get rid of any 4-4 body here. If he wanted to stay in the game, he'd have to eliminate at least 2 of those 4-4 bodies. But can only really take out the one lumberjack with this blacksmith. So, unfortunately, going to be Minelord's loss here in his debut. However, we can really toss it up to just being a lot of bricks in his hand here. Just did not do well against these, unit rush type strategies. So, a bit unfortunate, but we are going to move to game 2. Of course, Vesa with the set point for this episode. Let's see if we can do it. But before we do that, of course, let's go ahead and take a look at the post-match. Alright, folks, and welcome back. Of course, match number 1 coming to a close, and vesaven coming out the winner. Overall, a quite strong performance from that deck, just putting knight after knight on the board here. Those early Knight of Flowers doing real nice work against Minelord. Now, unfortunately, I do think Minelord's situation was a bit out of his control. A lot of bricks in the early hand that he wasn't really able to recover from. Although he did have an opportunity at that Dragon Knight into reanimate on the turn 5, where he just kind of panicked and put both units into that Knight of Flowers, not really remembering that he might have had the reanimate to recover better in the next turn if he had taken the damage now. But I understand why he did it. Vesaven's deck, packing the tools it is, Flame Storms and Drain Lives, could have potentially burnt him out. So I think he was just sort of scared and pressed the panic button in that regard. It's unfortunate because I feel like this deck could have really done some nice work against Vesa's Knights if given the opportunity here, but the bricks in his hand really just did not afford him that opportunity that I think he wanted. But regardless, we do move into match number 2 here as Minelord has the counter pick option available to him. What will he take against Vesa's Knights? Find out as we jump into match number 2 right now. Alright, folks, in game number 2, hitting the board here, as Minelord comes back with a bit of a clapback. The Viking Ninja Dragons up against the Vesa's Knights. So we'll see if this one can do any bit better here. We do have a lot more early options here, early game, which is going to be absolutely fantastic for someone like Minelord. More so than that, we're seeing actually turn 1 pass, so no lumberjack in sight here. Meaning Minelord could coin into things like Drake or Eater, depending on what hits the board here. We do see a questing knife for turn. Could warrant an Ice Drake, although I'd rather him play the Eater for turn. Just because that Eater could potentially benefit, off of soaking a burn and then having the Ice Drake anyway to trade with the questing knight here. Now we're going to see a unfortunate priest, which, I mean, Minelord can still remove this pretty easily. Doesn't really hurt him to put another Ice Drake on the board, actually. That top draw did very well. Anything else probably could have warranted some additional trading on Vesa's part. Like the Eater, he could have played that, but of course get removed by the Priest. Playing the Blacksmith also could probably get removed by the Priest here. So we'll play the Ice Drake again, make a trade here with the questing knight, force Vesa to trade with the Priest if he's got it. But we'll see if maybe he's got some kind of burn in hand, which it looks like he does not, as the Ice Drake is going to take that, take all of that Priest. Although books for turn, we're probably going to see some more double draw here out of Vesa. Minelord not looking to really interact with that right now, playing the Blacksmith off his side. He'll allow the 3 damage to come into face here. That sounds fine. He's a bit of a conundrum that he's found himself in here, because these Dragon Sieges don't really do a whole lot if he doesn't have dragons. So we'll see. Oh, and that's amazing freezing pillar value. Kind of. I say kind of because Furnace Knight's Inferno will take away the freezing pillar anyway by itself. So, as great as this would be, the Furnace Knight actually really prevents freezing pillar from seeing a great potential here. So we'll see what he does for turn here. He could Temple Pillar to stall out a little bit here, and when that's going to be the play it looks like he goes with. I think he's really just looking for some dragons at this point. He can get out the Aeroth next turn, but the Aeroth won't do a whole lot. Meanwhile, Vesa probably going to take the opportunity now to throw out just more knights. If I had to take any sort of guess here. Witch Bolt's the Dragon Temple. Okay. A little aggressive, but that's fine. And Flame Shield in the books for good measure. So he's trying to remove the pillar from one of two sources, either the Furnace Knight or the books, is going to deal that final blow. Masuda for turn, we can get rid of the books if we want, which I think is probably going to be the best idea for turn here. Yeah, we use the Masuda trade here. We can blacksmith as well for the follow-up. Put an eater out probably and just call it a turn. And that is going to be the play we see here. I would not interact with the Furnace Knight. There really isn't a need to at this point. Yep. And we can just set it up potentially to remove the threat later down the line here. I think the Furnace Knight should still be frozen because the pillar effect did pop, which it did. Dragon's Fire, though, for turn, that's definitely not what Minelord wanted to see. Pretty much... alright. That is a Lightning Blade, which you can actually use here quite well to eliminate the Furnace Knight threat while also keeping the Eater on board. Probably one of the best pickups he can afford to look at right now. But yeah, the Dragonfire definitely set him back a bit in this game here, and more so now that Krax hits the board. We need something bigger. We need either a Drake, I would say, or that's not what we needed. The Aeroth is just too expensive to create any sort of Dragon Siege or Lightning Blade value. It, mind you, does not really get killed off by Krax initially, but I think Minelord playing it safer here, playing the Aeroth up to the side. Although it should be an indication to Vesa that he's kind of running low on gas here. We'll see the Minotaur for turn, Questing Knight additionally. Yeah, he wants to move in for the kill here. He just wants to really sink in the game. Unfortunately, Stone Drake for turn really shouldn't have been playing that. But I guess he wants to set up Dragon Siege for next turn, or at least double Dragon Siege for next turn here. Knowing Vesa, he'll probably just go face here with the Minotaur. Maybe Luminaris with the Questing Knight, if he's got it per turn. That's what I'd assume. And yeah, there's the Luminaris pop. That's going to eliminate the Aeroth and the Stone Drake, allowing Minotaur to slap 6 to castle, and the Flamestorm to actually finish out the game here. So a very quick 1-2 from Vesa's deck, and ultimately a little bit expected, unfortunately. I don't want to trash Minelord, but of course Vesa's been in this game much longer, so of course the veteran's going to have some slight experience edge over the rookie, especially a rookie to this Casting Conflicts environment. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at how match number 2 went as we jump right in to that post-match. Alright folks, and welcome back to the post-game, of course wrapping up game number 2, and much like the first, Vesa does walk away with the game win, and with that claims his set for the month. An overall very strong performance from his deck coming out against the Dragons here. I can see where Minelord was going with his choice, and Dragons kind of an out-buff game, sort of overpowering the Knights in a way with cards like Dragon Search and Lightning Blade at his disposal, but unfortunately wasn't really able to get the job done. His hand improved, I would say, in the early game, but once we got to like the middle, the mid-game, about the, sort of into the late game as well, it just felt like his deck was kind of outclassed when you saw things like Krax hitting the board, allowing the Minotaur to come in, and Luminaris to finish off with that, big 4 burst of damage here. Yeah, things like the double Dragon Siege in his hand really weren't helpful because he had no dragons on the board to really benefit from that. Things like the Ice Strikes in the early game got taken out way too quickly and sort of left him without bodies here. I think he should have probably been more conservative with those Ice Strikes, but that's just my opinion. Overall, though, Vesa doing very well here. I think this is the strongest his deck has performed in a while here. We'll see if he decides to keep this deck or switch it up as we move into the next portion of our season, as he will hopefully be able to swap things around here and get himself some more wins under his belt. But with that being said, let's wrap it up for this episode of Casting Conflicts. Of course, let's go ahead and take it to the leaderboard now to see how this match affects our standings.